Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Call Loyam La, Adonai Yahweh, Bashem Shamalak Yahushai, Bashem Rakadash, double honor to the apostles of Ellsbury Millstone, peace, citation, hope for all elect, Shalom. And the title of this video is going to be the red horse that took peace from the earth and the second seal breakdown. So, start at verse 3. Pretty much, before I get there, I want to mention that I'm going to do this video again because I did it last year. Kind of had to take it down because I made some mistakes. One of the brothers from the main camp told me in that video, and he just told me to keep it basic and keep it to the point. So, well, I'll do that, this time. But for the most part, without further ado, let's get started on verse 3. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. And when you look into that, that blessing that was given to Esau, it was a sword that Yahweh, who was Isaac in the past reincarnation. So basically, like during the time where Jacob and Esau was being introduced into in the story of Genesis 25th chapter, it will tell you in Genesis the 27th chapter that how we'll get to that, how the Lord gave Esau the sword, and he gave it to him through Isaac, because Isaac told Esau that you will live by your sword, and, there's a saying that goes like, because the modern day weapon is pretty much the gun, and if you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and if you live by the gun, you die by the gun. And pretty much the same technology that Esau is using to conquer the world, the Most High is going to allow Esau to use that against his own self, to destroy his own self. So it's going to mostly be used for the purpose of World War III. But let me just get into further proof of what I'm saying. All right. So now Genesis 27 verse 38. This is when Esau was crying like a little bitch, because he was rejected for the birthright. So it says, "And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessed my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept like a fucking little bitch. And it says, verse 9, "And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of the heaven from above." So obviously he only got like a, just a small time of rulership, a little small season that it tells you in I think it was Revelation 20th chapter, how Satan is set loose for a little season. Yeah. And that's it. He's enjoying his little season right now, and it's about to come to an end very soon. And we're approaching that end, and it's funny because they have the fatness of the earth, but it's like, like in the end of the day, their bounds are limited upon the earth. They can't even search the other planets and things of that nature with their technology. And it's crazy that they can't even search out this own earth that the Most High has given them rulership and access to. It's like, it really shows you the power of the Heavenly Father. And if Esau did have access to everywhere around this earth, we best believe that this world might be pretty much destroyed, But so let's just get into verse 41. Wait, no, Salakia. Verse 40. "And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck." Because at a certain time, they did serve us in the dark ages, all the nations of our people, all the other nations, you know, they did serve our people in the Dark Ages during the time of King David's rulership, and and things of that nature. So I just want to go into what you call it, other like proof of how the red horse is talking about Esau. So in Genesis 25, where it says like that the two children, which were like twins, they were struggling in Rebecca's womb, and I believe the phrase would be called fraternal twins, because Jacob and Esau look different, but they were kind of like born pretty much the same day. Like a little different times, because Esau will be older than Jacob within like a few, probably like a few minutes or a few seconds or so, a few minutes, in that range, because Esau got out the womb first, and Jacob pretty much got out the womb last, right? So it really show you that like how pretty much Esau's daydream, because they were really shooting hands in the womb. So and Esau got out first, and that's how he became the elder, the oldest one. And it says verse 25, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. So when you look into that, to the meaning of that word, red, I know in the ancient Hebrew it's Adawam, like for Edom, and that goes back to being red, and what you call it, they are the type of people that where when they go outside, and let's say it's sunny outside, like particularly like in the summer. Oh boy, when you look at their skin gonna turn red as a motherfucker. And then even you will see some Caucasian people, like you will see them straight up looking like they're red, and that's because that's what they are. How the fuck can they be white? Make no damn sense. What's white is the paper that you get when you when you take your test. Usually your paper is white. When you use your notebooks, your pretty much like your everyday bulletin board, the chalk on your where you put like where you use on the chalkboard is white, so it makes no sense to say that to say that these Caucasian people, these so-called Caucasian people, are white, when in fact their biblical nationality is Edomites. And have them standing out there for 30 minutes to an hour in the sun. You see if without sunscreen, or even if they have sunscreen, you'll see the skin turning red in no time. Yep, you'll see their skin turning red, and that's the thing. The sun really exposes, their skin color. Like how they will say like, you can't hide nothing under the sun or whatever. Everything is gonna be exposed under the sun. Yeah. And Esau is the type of person where he likes to keep things, hidden in the darkness, But there's a saying that goes that everything that comes in the darkness comes to the light, and that's how this truth is. And then when you look at Esau, he can't handle sunlight. That's why they because they don't have the melanin to basically help them like stand out there for without sunscreen and shit like that. So yeah, I'm going to more further proof. So over here it says like the U.S. has been at war 222 out of 239 years. So this is showing you how he took peace away from the earth, and basically when you look into their history, they were they've been in a war a lot of the times, They teach you that in history school, but they don't teach you the real truth behind the reason why they went to these wars. So usually, like, you'll find that truth about the reason why these wars happen. You'll find most of that what you call it, by people that would be considered as conspiracy theorists. That, well, they have this video that was called "All Wars Are Bankers' Wars." So they will go behind the actual reason that these wars really happen, and that, the Rothschilds and was mostly behind it. You know, like the richest family that rules the world. That the reason why these wars happen was, mainly because of a central bank. But that's obviously like a for another lesson, for that video to be pretty much explained. But like, the somebody that already made the video, I don't know if it's still up there, like on what you call it, YouTube or Google, because things like that be taken down quickly because he's don't like the truth going out, and it says, this morning I discovered an interesting statistic. America has been at war 93% of the time, 222 out of 239 years since 1776. The U.S. only has been at peace for less than 20 years since its birth. I wanted to get a better understanding and look at other countries in the world. So yeah. And another thing, there's another article like this that was recently made, about a year ago. I'm gonna get that out. And there's more articles that kind of like go a little bit into what I was saying. And it says the U.S. has been at war 225 out of 243 years since 1776. So it's been at war, like, according to this article, 92% of the time. And that's how the U.S. is. They've been mostly fighting over resources, fighting countries to basically take over the central banking systems, things of that nature. Because, once you control the nation's money, you control the nation itself, Because first it's the money, then it's the resources, like, the most famous commodities is obviously, like, well, which is, like, considering money, is gold and silver. That's like the actual real money right there, not that fucking paper dollar. And when you look into the Rothschilds history, like, there's a video that was stating about I forgot how the title went, but it's a little cartoon that shows about how the feds work, right? They show you the truth about, like, America, like the American dream. They show you, like, the real truth behind it. And there was a cartoon where this man was saying that how the U.S., they loan money to the government, and they charge the government interest, and then they tax the people on the land to basically pay back for that interest that the Federal Reserve has put upon America. And the Federal Reserve is an institution that is pretty much controlled by private bankers, And we're talking about, like, the Rothschilds or Rockefellers, like, those top tier Illuminati, banking families that control, the world. So yeah, and they call the shots on the money supply. And there's a very few countries in the world that are considered as terrorist countries that America pulling the propaganda and shit because they're not willing to give up their central bank to America. Like, you got North Korea, and then you got Iraq, and then there's, like, a very few other countries as well that don't want to give up their central bank to America. But yeah, but without further ado, I'm gonna also go into, like, further explanation about the Rothschild, like, how they were the Rothschild bankers, because that color red is a very significant color in the Bible, and most of the time when you hear that color red, well, if you was given this understanding, you will understand that it will mostly tie or have something to do with Esau in certain cases, and then when it's coming to that color red, it has like different meanings, and and I'm gonna pretty much mention that, you know, explain about the, that vibration of red, of the color red. Yeah. And right here, it says pretty much red color, meaning the color red symbolizes passion, energy. But there's always a good and there's always a bad to everything. There's always like a yin and yang to everything. So you gotta understand, like, the positive and the negative of everything in life. And when it's coming to colors, like such as red, it says like the negative side of it. And obviously when you think of Esau, um, you have this truth. You're not going to think of anything positive about him. So this is going to really point out to him, where it says anger, negative, danger, revenge, and aggression. So you see, and then another thing too, when you look at like there's this DC superhero called Green Lantern, and I know this is a little jumping off track, but I'm trying to find like the what you call it, trying to explain the point that I want y'all to get with the color red. There's these Red Lantern Corps. I forgot. I think the guy's name is Atrocitus, but he's there's some leader of the Red Lantern Corps, and the rest of his, like, corps is like what you call it, is driven by rage. So like, how Green Lantern, like, his Green Lantern Corps is driven through what you call it, the willpower. Well, like the Red Lantern Corps is driven through rage, and every Lantern Corps is different. So some of them might be like, they will say the Blue Lantern Corps is driven by hope. Like that's the type of what you call it, pretty much like a mentality and a type of emotion that you have to to pretty much be in that corpse, which is like the crew for the and this is like a what you call it, it's a little fictional, but pretty much like I mentioned in the and then the Yellow Lantern Corps is pretty much like they have power through fear. You know what I mean? So what I'm basically trying to say is that the Red Lantern Corps is like, with that color red, it's spiritual. How and that's Green Lanterns, like the comics and stuff like that, they would tell you that when it's coming to the Red Lanterns, and you could look it up too on Google, so you don't gotta go through the comics, that when it's coming to the Red Lanterns, they must have like a lot of rage in their heart, like a whole bunch of anger and shit, to be considered as a Red Lantern. So yeah, and basically like they pretty much have like the same abilities, where they're able to use like what you call it every day, like weapons or objects or whatever, and pretty much use their ring to like uh to mimic the object. So yeah, but pretty much that's what I want to get out of that explanation. I don't want to make it no confusion or whatever, but it says in this little text, in the picture, red draws attention like no other color and radiates a strong and powerful energy that motivates us to take action. Yup. It is also linked to sexuality, stimulates deep and intimate passion. Red is ubiquitously used to warn and signal caution and danger. And then when you notice about Esau, he's a real dangerous guy, you know. Everywhere this devil takes foot upon this earth, like everywhere he steps is pretty much, you best believe that he's gonna destroy everything. And it's like the shit that Esau does is pretty much detrimental to the earth, right? And places where he's been ruling at, especially in America, you'll see how the land is like filled with like concrete here and there, on the streets in the cities and things like that. And in the towns, you see like a lot of concrete around, and it's like concrete is pretty much detrimental to your body. It has a detrimental effect, and that's how these devils, like, that's how they came from caves, because if they have the swirl in the this country America, and then in this type of condition, these devils are just you know they're insanely wicked. But pretty much, like, how you have a red stop sign that tells you to pretty much stop, that indicates stop. And you know sometimes, like, you have the color red, as a warning color. So they said, and over here, a color worth 1,000 tales. Never heard of that saying before. Heard a picture being 1,000 words, but never knew this was 1,000 tales. The colors. So I'm explaining the dark side of it. It says, darker side of red, often associated with bloodshed. The color red can trigger feelings of sorrow and defeat. It can also be fortifying presence, letting us know that we've endured another painful scar. From overcoming to preserving, the color red tells a different story for all. Though it can precipitate misery and remind us of loss, the color red is a symbol of strength. Those who've seen their fair share of red ought to be proud of their emotional endurance. So there y'all have it with red. That how there's different pretty much meanings to the color, and it carries like different vibrations. So now I just want to get into like a little bit of the Rothschilds now history. So pretty much right here it shows you that the name Rothschild, roughly in German, means red shield. Historians speculate that a red shield that have hung at the gate of the family house in Frankfurt. The first notable Rothschild was Mayer Amschel. He was the one that started the Rothschild dynasty. Mayer Amschel Rothschild, like, he's the one that started this whole madness. And and then you find out that his other children carried out his his legacy of basically taking over central banks in other parts of the world, like in other countries, saying like, I care not who makes the laws, give me the nation's money. Well, I'll set it backwards. Give me the nation's money, I care not who makes the laws. Yeah, because when you control the nation's money, because they started off as like, as bankers, and then they decided to pretty much get the riches by the sea. But let me see. I'm just gonna bring out scriptures at this point. Just further proving that Esau is what you will call the red horse. And I already showed y'all enough that the color red, pretty much, that's a good color that symbolizes Esau. And another thing as well, that's why the scriptures will also consider them as bloody men. King David mentioned, like, save me from the strange, from the strange man, from the bloody man, deliver my soul from the wicked. King David was saying that in the Psalms, and he was saying that for, a specific reason, because he knows that the Most High's sword on the left-hand side, on the third dimension, is Esau. He's the physical sword of the Most High on the left-hand side. Oh, and I forgot to mention over here, that he ate the red pottage as well. And the reason why the pottage was red is because, if you read Hebrews 12 chapter verse, I think it was verse 16, where it says that the morsel of meat he sold his birthright, so it had meat in that pottage. It wasn't only like, lentils in there, it was meat as well. So it says in verse where we at? Verse 30. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore, what's his name called? Edom. And he basically sold his birthright for, um, you know, a bowl of lentils with meat. And, and he had some bread as well. So he basically despised his birthright. And that's the reason why the Most High pretty much, he just made him just to hate him. So, and that's the reason why these Edomites, they have that rage against us, because they wish that they were the chosen people. So, Esau is pretty much, he big mad, because in the end of the day, the blessing wasn't meant for him. It was only meant towards the nation of our people. And you will have like the Edomites on high, like the highest level of Edomites, which would be the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, those banking families. Like, yeah, they know who they are. They know that they're Esau, and they do everything in their best power to, hide this truth. So they already know. They're not gonna pretty much tell you that in school, but they're gonna definitely have that information hidden. So they already have the archaeological evidence that we're the Israelites and stuff like that. So, but we just go by faith that we know who we are as a nation of people. And honestly, it's because the Most High chose us to believe it. So, see, and Psalms 59 verse 2 says, deliver me from the workers of iniquity and save me from bloody men. It's basically mentioning what he said in Psalms 17 verse 13, like, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. Exactly. And one thing about blood is the color red, and when you look at Esau, you see his blood through his skin because he's red. So if you see Edomites that are like, they have a different hues of red. So like from a light pink, basically, because some of them may look a little pale because, they keep their time out the sun if they have that pale look. But if they go out in the sun, you're going to see that redness a lot more. And boy, oh boy, in the kingdom, you ain't going to wear sunscreen working out there building our mansions and mowing on the cotton field, picking our cotton and doing whatever the hell we have you to do in the kingdom. When your ass is in slavery, you're not gonna wear no fucking sunscreen. You gotta burn, boy. Just to let y'all know that. But yeah. So when you can see their blood flowing through their skin. That's how red they are. They don't have that pigmentation, and that's why, like, if they were to get upset, they were to get angry, they will get red. You will see it a lot with them. But like even with you have like pretty much people who are like light skin that, like, when they get or like a light brown skin, pretty much like me, like, because like there was times where, like, when I'll get mad, like, you'll see like a little bit of redness, but not too, nothing too crazy, because I have like melanin and stuff. So but what you call it, and the thing that in this truth is not really about like skin color. That ain't got nothing to do, because like I said, you will have Edomites that have dark skin because, let's say, they mingled with a Hamite or they mingled with an Israelite, which if they got with an Israelite, it would pretty much produce a tear, and you have Israelites that look like Edomites, that literally will have the pale skin and everything, that will pretty much have all their facial features of an Edomite, pretty much, but yet their spirit is of a Jake. We will call that, shame of face, Israelite, or Israelite foreigner, confusion of face. So it's not really a skin color thing. But we're saying, like, pretty much Esau originally, his origins was, yeah, aside from being the serpent, and aside in the Garden of Eden, and aside from being like Cain, which come from that serpent seed line, you know, the sons of the wicked, you know, that these Edomites, their original color is obviously being like red people, you know. And another thing too, when during the times of slavery, obviously they had children without women and created tares and things like that. And even to this time, you will see that there's something called, diversity, interracial marriage. So pretty much you're gonna see people that are considered as so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American that's gonna have tares within those races. That's why we don't go by race or skin color. It's by the nationality, and it comes to the seed line your fathers. But so Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4, it says, "Behold, this soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith." And verse 5 says, "Yet also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man, he neither keepeth at home, nor larger his desire as hell, and is as death, he cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people." So this is about Esau basically telling you how he pretty much is a sinner, and he's a prideful person. You know what scriptures say about pride, that pride goes before destruction, and he don't know his place, basically. And he enlargeth his desire as basically hell. So hell is pretty much his desire to cause hell upon the other nations. And even this devil's so wicked, he causes hell upon his own people, and especially our people he causes hell upon, because, we're enemies from the womb. And even before Jacob and Esau, he was the fucking considered as Cain, and then the serpent, before Cain. So he's been our enemy ever since he has landed on the face of this earth. So, with that being said, Esau, his desire is basically, he can't be satisfied by blood, and that's what the scripture said. I'm gonna bring that out very soon. So, like, that's one of his hellish desire, and also to pretty much have war with other nations for their resources, such as their money, supply, and then when they control the banking systems of other nations, they cause what you call it, the phrase, the right phrase for it is like what they cause to the other nations, that when they could take control of their money supply or their banking system, they cause like something called inflation over time, because they're taking control of the nation's money. And then since they're taxing people to basically pay for the interest that's accruing, pretty much like growing over time, because the interest that they're with the paper dollar now, like the interest that they're loaning their money to, like the government, like they when the central bank systems are being controlled by the Rothschilds with their private institutions, such as they had the Federal Reserve controls the American government, and they control like the money supply. They charge interest towards to the government, and then they gotta tax the people to basically pay back for that interest. So people would think that taxes are being paid for, like people would think that because they pay their taxes or whatever, like they're paying for like city services such as police and firefighter. Nah, that's what how school would want you to. They want you to think of that, in school. School will teach you that bullshit, indoctrination bullshit. But the real reason why you're paying taxes is because of these fucking Rothschilds and Rockefellers, how they You know, these wicked banking families, how they are controlling the nation's money supply, and they're charging interest, you know, upon the government, and the government has to tax us to pay it back. So, verse 8 says, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, and of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. It says, verse 12, woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establisheth a city by iniquity. And then that's Esau, he does that, you know, and it tells you in the scriptures that he's going to be, taken out by violence, and then the land has to be also cleansed by the blood, and that the person who shed the blood, the land will be cleansed by that same person, but with his blood shedded. That's what the scripture said. I think it was in the book of Numbers that said that. But let me go into further scriptures. So Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 16. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. Exactly. And I know the very first Edomite to think of that, to think like that was Esau himself, the progenitor, which is the progenitor of the Edomites in the Genesis 25th chapter. He was like crying like a little bitch for the birthright, and then he was weeping with his eyes, and he said, that he would slay his brother Esau. Salaki, that Esau said he would slay his brother Jacob. He was like, he promised that. Then the time of his rulership, and that's where he carried out that action, to slay his brother Jacob, which were the descendants of Jacob, and how they have put an oppression upon the 12 tribes of the nation of our people, that's how Esau is. All because of the birthright. That's why he took his anger out on us, and that's why they hate us. They hate us with a passion, And little did we know, pretty much like in the world, before we got into this truth, like, that Esau, there's a how they try to portray the devil. They try to portray him as a red guy with, basically with a pitchfork and horns. But it's like, that's not even a picture of Satan or whatever. Pretty much just Esau's deception. And when it's coming to these Edomites, they're the fucking devils that the Bible speaks of. And they're acting like, there's some instances in the Bible where it talks about like the spiritual demon Satan, and where it mentions like, when it mentions about demons, that, the word for that will be devil. But when you look at Esau, he's like the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, But yeah, but that's pretty much what I want to get on that. I thought I brought that out because, it's interesting to go over like the horses and stuff in the Bible, and that had to been explained, and I did, let's say, I did make a mistake in the first video, the first time I made it, so I just, recorrected myself, and, kept it basic to the point, So, hope I made the lesson edifying. Like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Adonai, our Bashem, Shamalak, Yahushua, Bashem, Kakdash, the bonds of the apostles, the Elsewhere Millstone, peace and teaching over luck. Yabashim Shah, Rakasha, Shalak Rayam, Arawanyam, Wakawayam, Wa, Ababa, Shalom.